Good evening, everyone. I'm Jonny Mac, and I'm here to present with my buddy Brent Clemmer, episode 15 of Center Ice. Lots to talk about this week. You know, everybody's kind of getting that posturing here to get into the playoffs and sitting guys and whatnot. So we'll get into that in a minute. How was your week, Brent?
Oh, it's all right. Jay season just kicked off, so I've been watching more baseball than hockey. It's not playoffs yet, and there's not a whole lot of meaningful hockey left. So disappointment so far. But
you're gonna get down to any games?
Oh yeah, I'm going to the Leafs game tomorrow, and then I'm going to the home opener. I think it's on the 12th.
Oh, okay, yeah, they're on the road. I like that they've done that the last couple of years, is put them on the road because it's a little chilly here.
Yeah, it makes sense
in Canada. Great, good to hear. And the Leaf game, so they're playing Columbus.
Right? Tomorrow, yeah.
They're always a tough matchup for Toronto for some reason, especially when you're sitting guys and Columbus has nothing to lose, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I have no expectations. I bought $110 standing room tickets, so I'm just going to go have a couple of beers. It's for my buddy's birthday, so.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
How was your week?
Oh, good. Just, plugging away here. Been on the ice a little bit, doing some camps. We wrapped one up yesterday in Dartmouth and have a new one starting tomorrow night in Halifax. And just thinking about my mother-in-law, Dawn, out in Imperial, Saskatchewan. She's recovering from some surgery and doing real well. So that's real nice to hear. I mean, she deserves a medal anyway, because she has to put up with my father-in-law, Howard. He's a little bit of a pain in the ass, but she'll get through it. And hi to Donna and keep getting better. And we look forward to seeing you out here soon. So getting back into the content here. One thing that kind of jumped out at us is Jesperi Kotkaniemi. And I've followed this story since the kid got drafted. So we went third overall to Montreal, just to give our listeners a little bit of an idea where we're going here. Went third overall to Montreal and kind of looked like a little bit of a bust, right? He was expected to put up some numbers, came in as a young teenager, and really didn't deliver. He's a big body, 6'2", 205, 210 pounds. They had him as a power forward. Had some real good, World Junior numbers. He really looked like a can't miss prospect, and hence he went number 3. So he was kind of, floundering around in Montreal, and then all of a sudden, Carolina, they have superstar there, Sebastian Aho, unreal player. So he was a restricted free agent, and Montreal, Mark Bergevin was a GM. He offer sheeted Aho. So Aho, Carolina ended up matching the offer sheet. And next summer, all of a sudden, Carolina, they have the new owner came in, Tom Dundon, and so they go back and they offer sheet Kotkaniemi at a lot more money than anybody thought the guy would ever be worth. Right, I think it was 6.1 or something like that,
and pissed Montreal right off.
Right, yeah, but it was a retaliation for that move. So Montreal they didn't feel they were bringing in Christian Fischer at the time. They didn't feel they could handle that contract, or Kotkaniemi was worth it. Carolina, rolled the dice. Donnie Waddell, who's the GM there, he basically, he kind of covered it up and said, "Oh, we've been watching this kid since he came. He was in junior. We liked him in his draft year, blah, 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 blah." But there was Dundon, and he's an odd duck there in Carolina, the owner. And I think it was him basically saying, "I don't care what you have to do, sign that kid, and let's get them back for what they try to do." Because really, they got Aho more money, right? Montreal's offer sheet got Aho more money in Carolina, and at the end of the day, he's worth every penny, but they could have got him a lot less. That he was a marginal superstar at that time, right? So now, fast forward, Kotkaniemi is a key part of that team, and they're a wagon, man. That team is a good hockey club. We talked about them, over the last couple of weeks, and there's nothing, there's no holes in that lineup really, and they're missing some key guys that they brought in with injuries, and they just keep rolling, right? It's going to be a tough matchup for anybody in the playoffs. He's got 37 points. That's a good year, right?
And, I mean, still probably not worth the 6, but as of recent, he's looked like he's probably getting there. And he's just one of those guys that takes a little bit longer to marinate and, get going in the league. And I think he probably found the best possible situation in Carolina that he could have. Obviously, Montreal is a good spot for a young guy to be right now too. But I mean, if you want to win and kind of, still be given that shot, Carolina's kind of the spot. And they're a good team. I still don't think they're built for the playoffs at all. But
I mean, I hear you. I understand. I can see that. But, the games that I've watched them, I like his presence. He's playing a little bit heavier than you would have expected with his performances in Montreal. Didn't they bring in the kid from Edmonton too? Puljujärvi?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think they got him at just before the deadline. Now, if you think about it, they're building a little bit of a Finnish contingent there, and if you've got Aho and Kotkaniemi and now Puljujärvi, and if Rod Brind'Amour, who tremendous coach. I mean, I think underrated as a coach. He was underrated as a player. He's about my age, so he came up and played heavy, hard hockey. Real good defensive center iceman, and he got the most out of this kid that everybody was going to give up on. Can he do the same with Puljujärvi? Another big body, another high draft pick that really didn't fit in Edmonton and came up. If he can turn that kid's career around as well, they're gonna go a long way.
Yeah,
those are Toronto Sirens, as I'm hearing.
Yeah, that is Toronto Sirens.
We don't have any sirens in Halifax.
No, that
never happens.
It's a nice day out today, so we have the balcony door open, so it's a little bit noisier than normal. But that's what we deal with all the time. It never stops.
Yeah. So anyway, to wrap up this topic, Kotkaniemi, good on them to take the chance on him and now Puljujärvi, and like you said, we'll have to see how they perform. There's not going to be an easy matchup at any round in the East. Like if you look at the teams that are close here, I mean, we're going to get into talking about Florida, Pittsburgh, and the Islanders. That could go any way. I know we talked about it last week, but that can go literally any way. And any of those teams are going to be a problem. I think there's going to be some tremendous series all the way through. We'll get into the Flames and the Panthers a little bit later. I want to talk about David Pastrnak. So, I mean, I'm not a Bruins fan, obviously. Don't really like the team, but like the team, right? You can't argue with what they've done. Coached well again. I mean, Montgomery coming in his first year and the numbers. I mean, this is pretty much the same group they've had the last few years, and they've had some success in the playoffs, but they've never rolled through a regular season like this. And even when they had Chara, right? They were always at the top, tier of the league. But what they're doing and the way they're doing it, they're coming in and they're winning games that, that it seems like they're asleep, and then boom, they need 2 goals in the last minute,
and they just go get them.
Yeah, I watched the Pittsburgh game the other day, and I was kind of cheering for Pittsburgh. You got Sid there, good East Coaster, and I'm hoping they get in for that kind of old boy group with Malkin and Letang. So I was cheering for them against Boston. Want to see them get in, and then all of a sudden, boom, before you even know what happened. It's it. Pittsburgh doesn't get a point. They were leading with a couple minutes left, and boom. So, but Pastrnak, if you look at the numbers he's put up, okay, he's put like solid numbers, plus minus is there. He plays heavy minutes against the other team's good players, and comes up on a positive side every single night. And he's almost got McDavid in goals. McDavid's assists are the difference, but look at the team success. So you can make a case.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up. Their most valuable player needs to be on a super ultra competitive team, in my opinion, because McDavid is bringing the most valuable like most value to any team that he can. Yeah. But at the end of the day, the Oilers are bad. Like
I mean, they're getting in. I don't think
they're going to
go very deep.
It's a very weak Western Conference. Like if they're in the East, I don't think they sniff a wild card spot.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and that's why, if you look at the Canadian Football League, they call it the MOP, right? Most outstanding player, and McDavid is that. He is, best in the world, dynamic. But if you're talking about most valuable player, I mean, I think there's there's a case for Pasta. There's a case for the goalie in Boston too.
Allmark,
he's right there. He'd be right there in that mix. And
I think goalies need to win MVP more.
Yeah, and I get why they don't. I mean, they really have to knock it. It's only been the Hassicks of the world, and I think Brodeur won it once, and they're just the upper echelon, unbelievable goaltenders that would win with a shitty team, right? But you could make a case for Mitch Marner in Toronto too. I mean, what he brings to the table on both sides of the puck. I think he's in the Selke. If Bergeron wasn't having such a team successful season, I think Marner's a lock for that. I mean, he plays PK. He plays against and Matthews too. You could throw him into that mix, right? But and then it's funny, they've got a former winner in Ryan O'Reilly. So I think if those guys can continue to play the right way in the playoffs, Toronto can make some noise for sure.
Yeah, and there's a lot of teams that can make some noise. Like in the East, you could literally have a wild card team come in and sweep 2 series. It wouldn't be like overly surprising, but they're going to be ultra competitive series all the way around, up and down. If you're Boston, like you're not like, oh my God, yeah, we're playing disgusting. We're going to walk through into the conference final. Right. It's not going to happen. You're going to go 6 or 7 in probably both of those series. And it doesn't really matter who you play, because every team that is close or in is gonna be a challenge. There's no free passes in this one.
No, and like I've said all along, there's I think every team that gets in the East, including the 2 wild cards, can get there. They all have the personnel to get there. You need to be lucky. You need to get a bounce. You need to stay healthy, right? You need to get a call. You got to get a call every now and then too. I was talking to a buddy of mine today, who's he's a head scout for Flin Flon in the Saskatchewan Junior League. So I looked at a video. I kind of follow that league a little bit. So they played Estevan Bruins in the first round of the SJ, and it went 7 games. Flin Flon was down 7 or 8 regulars, right? Got it to the 7th game, just willed it to there. Basically went in, they scored, tied it up. It's 1-1, went into overtime, and it was a freak goal in overtime. It was a dump in that hit the goalie. It was literally a dump in from outside the blue line. And then they get in, now they're up on Humboldt. Humboldt's down 2-0 to Flin Flon, and they were in the Centennial Cup last year. And that's exactly what I mean. There's, you have to be lucky. You have to, stay healthy, and referee. And, that brings me to, what were your thoughts? And quickly, we'll move on from Pasta. What did you think of the misconduct last night for Bunting in Toronto?
To be honest, I didn't actually watch the game. I had a pretty busy night, but I saw the highlights of it. I just
soft.
But at this point, if it wasn't Bunting, it's not called.
Yeah, but you know what? He's the type of kid that needs to play on the edge, and I get that. I didn't have a problem with the play. If you watch the sequence leading up to the call, he literally got cross-checked, speared. They called him for diving at one point when he got cross-checked 3 times, and the 3rd time he went down. He got a diving penalty. And then he gets a misconduct because he was kind of skating backwards as a player was going after him. And the guy's stick was in between his legs, and I think that's what it was. But it's, he's got to shut his mouth. And that's what the coach's problem is. It wasn't the play, it's the yapping, right?
Yeah.
And he's getting that kind of you take one of those in the playoffs, and that's a difference in a hockey game. It's, they're going to have nightmares about, Kadri's penalties that cost them their 2 years in a row, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And I mean, it is what it is. Bunting has always gotten calls, at least this year, but
oh yeah,
they're not calling penalties that should be against him, and they're also calling penalties on him that probably aren't so fair to say.
Do you think he's there next year? Isn't he a UFA this year?
I think he is. He's not going to find a better situation than playing up and down the lineup and getting reps with Matthews, I don't think. I mean,
but
someone might
pay
pay
him.
Someone might pay him, but I think everyone probably knows that he doesn't put up numbers like that unless he's with Matthews.
Right.
So unless you have a Matthews type player that needs someone like that on their line, then you're probably not going to dish too much out for him because.
Oh, for sure.
And I think Toronto pays him. I think they give him. I think it'll have to be team friendly. I mean, he's from the area, right? So
yeah,
he might want to be there. So he might want to be team friendly a little bit because it's going to be the best situation for him. But I mean, if he continues with Toronto and he takes maybe a bridge deal, two year kind of deal, 2 year, maybe 6.5.
I don't think they have 6.5 for him unless they move on.
I mean, over 2 years.
Oh, okay. 3.25. I don't think he signs for that.
I think it would be tight.
I think he needs 4. I think he needs 4. I think he can get 5 or 6 somewhere else.
I think market value is 4.
Yeah, but I think somebody will overpay him.
It's possible.
He's one of those types of guys that'll sell tickets too, right?
Yeah.
Like, in a smaller market and one of the U.S. teams that maybe struggles with the gate, you bring a guy like that in that's got a little pedigree, and he's played, and you might have a budding superstar that you could play him with, and it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. Let's move on though. So it's getting interesting. I just looked at the standings before we came on the air here, Brent, and if you look, the Flames and the Panthers. It's close. It's really close. So I think the Flames have to catch Winnipeg. Seattle's got 2 games at hand, and I don't think that they're going to falter. I think the Flames and Winnipeg. I still like Winnipeg because simply because of the goaltending. I think Hellebuck can win a game that the Calgary goalies haven't won this year. But again, if that Flames team or Winnipeg is in, and I'd be scared to play them, both of those teams. And even
I agree.
Calgary's a deep, roster. I think they've had their issues, but I think that they could make some noise. Like if they ended up with an Edmonton, I mean, Edmonton still has a chance of getting in there to play a wild card team, and I wouldn't want to play Calgary if I was Edmonton after last year, right? They beat.
I don't want to play anyone if I'm Edmonton. There's not a matchup that I love. Like
they're looking like LA right now,
and I don't like that matchup for them at all.
I like LA. LA is my dark horse in the West.
Yeah, and I don't think LA is going to do much. I think that the best case for them is they probably beat Edmonton in 6 and then get swept.
Yeah, who would they get in the second round?
I think probably Colorado.
No, because they're on the other side, so they'll play. Yeah. They'd get whoever. Is it Seattle? No, Seattle's a wild card. So who else? Who's winning that division? Yeah, no, they're in the other side. Who's leading the Western teams? So it's LA. Seattle's in a wild card spot. Let me see if I can pull it up.
I'm checking it right now.
Okay.
It would have to be Vegas.
Right. Yeah. So it'll be Vegas and a wild card.
Minnesota.
Edmonton, LA, and then then it'll go that way. Minnesota will be in that Midwest, right? Or that other division. So Minnesota, if they win that side or Colorado wins that side, they play a wild card game, and the other team plays Dallas. Or if Dallas is up there too. I think all 3 of those teams are still in it, aren't they? Dallas.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nashville's there.
Yeah. Well, Nashville was out of it for a while.
Yeah. And they sit 3 points behind Calgary with 2 games at hand.
Yeah.
And they have a head-to-head.
And how far are they behind the third place in their division?
Third place in their division. Winnipeg's they're not catching them.
That's it? No. Okay.
Dallas is at 96 points with a game at hand on Winnipeg, and Nashville is 5 points behind Winnipeg with 2 games at hand.
Yeah, I mean, Calgary can squeak in. They can make some noise for sure. I think they're built for playoffs more so than a lot of the teams in the Western Conference. But, the turmoil within the team, you never know. I think, some guys are mailing it in. We'll have to see. And then Panthers have really come on. I wrote in one of the articles I wrote for the network, what the hell's going on in Florida? And then they went on a heater. Right? They probably need me to write another bad article about them or something. But so they're only 1 back of Pittsburgh and 2 back of the Islanders, and they have a game in hand on the Islanders. Right? I'm going to go out there and say that Pittsburgh is going to get in, and I'm going to say Florida's going to get in. I think the Islanders are going to falter. What do you think?
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I kind of like the Islanders, and I kind of hope they get in.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 1 point up on Pittsburgh. I don't.
Well, you're going to get into strength of schedule now too, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I know I made some notes on it for one of the previous shows. I don't know where I had it. But strength of schedule. I think they're all pretty even. I mean, at the end of the day, this time of year, anybody can beat anybody.
Yeah, because people are resting. People just get hot for no reason at the end of the season.
Oh, I got a problem with the resting too. I mean, if it compromises the integrity of a schedule, and depending on the matchup, right? Like last night, Toronto played Detroit and they rested 3 guys. I'm okay with that, right? Because Detroit's not in. And they're not getting in, right? But if Toronto rests 3 guys and they're playing Pittsburgh, New York Islanders, or Florida, I'd be pissed if I was the other 2 teams.
But you got to think there's some strategy to that for a team like Toronto, for a team like Boston. If there's a team that you might potentially match up with, or that you think matches up better against, say, Boston, you may do that intentionally, which, I mean, I don't love it, but I can totally see why you would do it against those teams.
I think it compromises the integrity of the whole league when that happens. I really do. And
I agree.
And that's one of the reasons why I don't like basketball, because it happens he's not going to play because he's got a hangnail. No. A, right?
The fans.
That team on the other side, and then B, obviously the fans. Howard Berger wrote an article today on his blog out of Toronto. And he had a good point. He said you had a back-to-back this weekend, right? So you had Ottawa at home, or you were in Ottawa. You were in Ottawa on Saturday night, and then you were home to Detroit on Sunday. Why would you not sit those players, specifically Mitch Marner, at the road game and give him the home game? Because of it's like I said last week, I think you got a fan, you got a dad that saved all his money to take his son to one game, and he's a massive Mitch Marner fan, and they got Detroit tickets because they were cheaper because Detroit's shitty, right? And then they show up and he's not playing, right? Yeah. I agree with Howard. A lot of times I don't agree with Howard. I think he says some things and he tries to get a rise out of everybody, and he really has a problem with MLSE. But at the end of the day, he's kind of right? If there's 2 games, you're going to sit your guy for one. Let's not do that at home. But
and I do agree. However, I don't like it if a player is overall healthy. If a guy like Matthews, who's being beat up all year and stuff, Matthews is an extreme example because he's top 5 player in the league for the next 10 years. But you're okay with him missing a few games because he's being beat up all year. It's been apparent. It's been obvious. So I do see, it's disappointing for a fan, but if he's not totally healthy, I understand it. Whereas if a guy's, he's not actually hurt. He just wants a day off, or the coach wants to give him a day off for rest. I don't believe in that. You're a professional athlete. You're not
Right.
tired. You're not supposed to be tired. You're supposed to be good to go.
Yeah, I agree, and that's what the contract pays. So it'll be interesting here. I'm gonna watch lineups here over the next couple weeks, because it's I don't like to compromise the integrity of the sport, right? And when you get into this, a lot of things will come into play too. Now that the league has kind of partnered up with gambling sites and things like that, where you can bet a couple of days out. If I know, Leafs are going to rest Matthews, Marner, and Tavares tomorrow night against Columbus, but it's not released yet. And I bet the farm on Columbus, right? There's some integrity issues with it, and I think that's one of the things that's kept hockey, in my opinion, separate from some of these other sports that they do rest guys. So we'll see how it plays out, but I just hope somebody doesn't get in,
based on that.
Yeah, based on somebody resting players against them, and there's ways to do it. Let's face it, right? You can say the guy's hurt. You can say whatever you want. He's got a lower body injury. You don't have to say what it is anymore.
No.
So that's
and it doesn't matter anyways. It's just
right.
That's just for the media.
Yeah.
Like if a guy doesn't want to play, he doesn't have to play. People go with personal issues all the time.
But, absolutely. Yeah.
Speaking of the Flames and Panthers, Nazem Kadri done for the year, likely.
You think he's done?
I think he's done for the year because I don't think the Flames are getting in.
So I don't know about this injury. What happened?
I think it's a broken thumb.
Oh, really?
I believe so.
Wow. I you know what? I was kind of, when we talked about Kadri, I was thinking he's going to be out in the summer. I think he's getting traded. I think he's out. I think it didn't work there. It's a big, heavy deal. Depending on what happens with Treliving and or Sutter, I think he's gone. Right? I didn't realize he was injured.
Yeah.
So anyway, if he's injured, I think that cuts their chances of getting in. I didn't realize that at all. I was thinking he was gone. I'm thinking it didn't work. He's had some things. If that coach stays, he's gone for sure.
Well, that I agree with.
Depends on what the manager's going to do too, right? He's a lame duck. Just like Dubas. I can't believe they haven't extended him yet in Toronto.
I think he's just gone though. I think the GM. I don't think he wants to be there. I think like the guy's got so many things he can go do. Yeah. He doesn't have to be an NHL GM. He can go make money elsewhere. So he may just walk out, and I don't think he leaves. I don't think he gets fired or not extended. I think he by choice walks away.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously it's well documented who his dad is and the family businesses and the Dragon's Den stuff. But I can tell you, it's in your blood, right? When you do it and you don't reach that pinnacle at any level, right? I coach junior and different minor hockey levels and whatnot. It gets in your blood, and you just almost are addicted to trying to win. And he was never a player. He came up on the business side of it, and I think he got his teeth cut in Phoenix. He might have played college hockey or something. He never played in the NHL, but it gets in your blood, right? He could be the type too, though. If you look at Daddy's Money, I know that teams are, it's ridiculous what they're going for. I heard a number that it's just under $1 billion for the Ottawa Senators, just under $1 billion, right? And Ryan Reynolds is going to be part of it. And there's all kinds of posturing going on between 3 or 4 groups. So maybe they're looking at something, a little bit bigger, right? Seeing what's out there. And he does have connections to Phoenix. He was an assistant GM there for 7 or 8 years for sure. So, yeah, I think Kadri's gone most likely. Jonathan Toews. Now this is the one that's it's weighing on me. Here's a kid that, Captain Sirius or, whatever you want to call him. This kid came in, he was a captain in the National Hockey League at, I think, 21 years old. He had that group of kids that he kind of led to be real good and win. The core of them won 3 cups, but they were all kids. They brought in a couple veterans. They brought in Hossa. They brought in a couple guys, that to help. But make no mistake, Jonathan Toews was the leader of that team. The players respected him. He always played the game the right way. Played in his own end just as heavy as he played in the opposing end, and he put up numbers. He was the type of guy that needed to be a captain when Patrick Kane kind of was going through a few behavioral issues, because I think he was the calming influence in that room. Just talking to some people that were around that room, he was, the Captain Serious moniker is very true. He was not a typical 21-year-old in the National Hockey League making millions of dollars. No, very responsible. Like I said, played the game the right way. And now it's ending. We know it's over, right? He knows it's over. My prediction, we talked about this before we came on the air. Here's what I think. I think they're going to bring him back. I'm not sure what their schedule is, but they're going to bring him back for a home game, maybe 2 home games. But I think they're going to bring him back. I don't think he's healthy. I think this COVID stuff, the long COVID that he had to deal with, and he missed a full year. Now his buddy Kaner's gone. There's no way he's going to be part of a rebuild, even if he's healthy, right? If he was ever going to play hockey again, I think it's somewhere else. But I don't think he's going to play hockey again. I think they dress him and he plays a few shifts and gives the fans what they, kind of want to see. And the next time you see him in Chicago, his numbers going up, right? Him and Kane together, maybe. But what do you think?
It's all speculative right now, but I don't think they've announced it yet. And I find it, if they're putting him into the lineup this week, or maybe he's already been in the lineup, I'm not even sure. But I think they would make a bigger deal out of it. They've got nothing going on in Chicago right now other than the fact that they're tanking for Bedard. So I would think that they would try and make it more of an event and, try and fill the barn. Like we looked at it before, that they're 4,000 seats shy of filling a barn. That's a lot of dough. That's a lot of ticket money when you think about 4,000 seats. So I would assume they would try and make a big deal out of it. I'm surprised they're not making a bigger deal out of his return in general, even if he's not retiring. Mm-hmm. I would have thought for sure that they would be hyping the guy up, but beyond like a tweet or two, there's not a whole lot other than he's dressing. So I find it hard to believe that it's going to be his last game. Yeah.
Is it a home game that he's dressing for? Do you know?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. We'll see. I think it's a shame. I think he's one of the, as a Canadian and watching, the how he played in a couple of, he was in 2 Olympics, wasn't he? Definitely in Nagano. I remember that.
So he's already played. It was at home.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was at home the other night. And it was against the Devils.
Oh, okay. Well, then obviously he's, maybe he's healthy enough to play out the string, but I just said Nagano. He was about, he probably wasn't even born when Nagano happened. Well, no, he would have been about 8, but Sochi. He was in Sochi.
Yeah. He went 8 for 12 in the dot and had 14 minutes on the ice, which is,
not that unhealthy then, is he?
No, he's doing all right. 14 minutes in an NHL game's a lot when you haven't played since January 28th.
Yeah, and you just don't like to see a guy go out like that, right? You want to see a guy, go out I don't think he wants to go out like that either. But I think if he was healthy enough, he would have got moved like Kaner, and he'd be gearing up for a playoff run right now. I just don't think he was healthy enough. Because how many teams wouldn't have wanted that guy in their room, even if he's not dressing? Right?
Fourth line centerman. Line centerman. Let him go get draws. That's it.
Yeah. Go win draws and chip in a little bit, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's all you need him to do.
People would have lined up to get a guy like that for sure. No. Okay, so let's get into a couple kind of controversial things, and I know you have your opinions and I have my opinions. So for those of you even in the US, so we've got a couple of you can call them scandals, you can call them newsmakers or whatever. But in two of the three major junior leagues in Canada, so we've got the the three major junior leagues are the Western Hockey League, and it encompasses all the provinces from Manitoba west, and then anything in the U.S., any players that are kind of south of there on that side of the U.S., they would be eligible to play in the Western Hockey League. The Ontario Hockey League, it's basically Ontario. There's a couple of teams in Michigan, and then it kind of goes down in through there. They got Michigan and Ohio and some of those states that are eligible for the OHL. And then you got the Quebec Major Junior League that is Quebec based, but now there's 5 teams in Atlantic Canada. So just basically what's happening here is there's two things. The first one, and I loved your take on it when we were texting earlier in the week. So the Ontario Hockey League, they have a draft. They have an entry draft for 15-year-olds every year. And it's a big deal. If you get when you get drafted, that doesn't mean you're going to play. It means that team has your rights.
And there's a lot of draft picks.
There's 15 a year.
Like it's not.
Yeah, there's 15 rounds. And if you think about it, so over a course of 3 years, each team's drafting 45 kids, but they can only have 20 on the roster, right? So, they're building a little bit of a stable, but there's always been allegations. And, when I coached in Toronto back in the 90s, it was happening at the kids level, right? In the MTHL, it's called the GTHL now. I mean, I saw some stuff that just, you shake your head.
It's disgusting.
There's cash being passed from dads to, owners of these teams or
buying cars.
Guys that really,
it's
crazy.
Disgusting.
So the allegation that came out last week is that the OHL and some of its member teams are being investigated for taking bribes of up to $30,000 Canadian to draft the kid, not to play the kid, not to sign the kid and put him on a team, to draft the kid. So
just to say he's been drafted. It's bragging rights for the parent.
Correct. Dad's a Fortune 500 CEO, and he's like, you know what, my kid's a shitty player. He didn't even, wasn't even a top player on his midget team. And now, my son got drafted by the Saginaw Spirit or the, Sudbury Wolves. And he gets to go to camp and then gets cut the first day and sent down to junior Q because he can't even make a junior B team. And the dad, he was drafted. Yeah.
Well,
$30,000.
I'll tell you right now, there does not need to be an investigation. They know this is happening. This has been happening for at least a decade, I want to say, that I know about because I'm only 21. But when I was coming up playing, 100% it's an issue. I mean, and now they're just making it okay by to play junior A, you're paying $8,000.
Yeah.
You're paying $8,000 to play for a team that should be drawing, 3,000-4,000 people a game.
Yeah.
And it's a complete joke. The minor hockey system, the junior hockey system in Canada is so corrupt. You're paying less money to play junior C hockey than you are junior A hockey right now. It's all about the status, and it's disgusting. There doesn't need to be an investigation. It's absolutely happening. It's absolutely been happening. I think $30,000 is on the lower end for some of these parents that have been, chipping out cars and stuff. And there's deals with the coaches and general managers. It's just a complete joke. And the OHL doesn't make money. Like there's some teams that do, but they don't make a lot of money. And that's how they've been staying afloat. I would kind of assume. So,
no question. And there's some backdoor deals. So here's a perfect example. So, I coached the 86 birth year, and there was a kid that was, a great player. I'm not going to name his name. But anyway, would have been a top 3 or 4 pick in that draft. Okay. Dad went and told every single team, don't draft him. He's going to Michigan State. We're committed, right? Don't draft him. Nobody drafts him until like the 25th pick or something like that. And then one of the prominent teams, I won't say that because somebody could look it up and I know the family, so I don't want to get into it, but there was one of the prominent teams that has money, basically said, we'll take him at, I think it was 9, right at the end of the first round. We'll take him at 19. And everybody kind of gave the side eye. Thought he was going to Michigan State. We heard he was committed to Michigan State. Nope. Where does that kid play?
Yeah.
But in the OHL. And that's been happening forever. Back in the Q, if you go back to the 90s in the Quebec Major Junior League, there was 3 brothers, Morissettes or Morrissey, I think they were called, and they each owned a team. So there's 3 brothers that owned 3 different franchises in the Quebec Major Junior League. And what would happen was they were loading. This is before even the East Coast teams were in it, right? This is when it was just Quebec. And they would literally load up a team every year to go to the Memorial Cup. So at the trade deadline, whichever one of them were doing the best would
they just load them up.
Basically, the other 2 guys would give them all their studs, their overage players, and they'd give the other guys, 10 draft picks, 5 draft picks, whatever, to make it even. And then they just keep doing it. So the league had to step in and say, hold it. So then they were trading players and then getting them back in the summer, right? Oh, we'll trade you this guy because we're not making the playoffs, but we're going to trade him. So then the Q came in. I think the whole Canadian Hockey League went in and basically put that to sleep because they turned around and they said, no more. If you trade a guy to this team, he can't come back to your team for like a year or something like that. And it was tough because, and I think that was part of the precedent. And there's also a Canadian Hockey League rule that the younger kids can't get traded. If you're still high school age and you're a first round pick, you can't get traded. Like they can't just, trade some stud that's 16 years old that's still in high school, with the intent of getting him back. Just because, it's disruptive, right? These kids, it's hard. I was traded overseas one time, and it screws with your head a little bit because you have that, you have that feeling that, wow, these guys that I, work my ass for don't want me.
Yeah.
Right. And then you think about it a little bit deeper and you go, but, maybe that team just wanted me more. And they made and then you start to dissect the move and why did, is that guy that they got for me better than me or, and it's hard.
It fucks with you mentally for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of guys that are creatures of habit and, like to go to the rink at the same time and drive with the same guys and eat the same meal. And, I was a little bit like that, but it's, so when you're doing this to 16-year-old kids and 17-year-old kids, and
these guys are like, they're getting in with billet families. They're
right.
They're getting settled in. And there's guys that play their entire junior careers in one spot and there's guys that bounce around. Trust me, the guys that live in one spot for their entire junior careers are having a way better time because, you find a billet family you like, you get in with them and you're part of the family. But when you're bouncing around like that, it's just awkward. Yeah. It's awkward because it's like you're moving in, you're moving out.
Absolutely, and it's a business, right? That there's a reason why those players are not eligible for NC2A hockey, right?
Yeah,
it's considered professional hockey. They get a per diem per week, and they all have scholarship deals now. You can
there's different ones per like there's the gold one, which is every year you play.
Yeah, there's some that are guaranteed 3-4 years. You sign your
step
first
on
deal.
The ice.
Depends on where you're picked, right? It's the first couple of rounds. If you're picked and you sign, you got your university, right? And I was talking to somebody today about that has a son in the same boat, and he weighing it out. He's going to be a draft pick in one of the major junior leagues, and the college options are already there. But it's a tough decision because in order to get that college full ride to NC2A, you got to go to, tier 2 junior and you got to play well enough, right? And you got to stay healthy. And
the hockey's not bad.
It's good hockey, right? So you got to produce if you want that scholarship. Whereas you could go sign if you're a second, third rounder, you could sign with the major junior team in your area and get, some of them are like guaranteed 3 to 4 years of university, everything.
It's paid for.
Full ride.
And a lot of guys like doing that too, because they don't actually have the, the will or the want to go pro, and they don't think they can. So they just want to have fun playing, living it up in the OHL, which I'm sure is a great time. I have some buddies that play there and they love it. But then you get to go play college hockey in Canada, which isn't super over the top competitive. You don't have to worry about much, but it's all paid for.
And it's good. It's a real good level of hockey.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's all ex major junior players for the most part.
Mostly you get some programs have tier 2, but if you look at a UNB or a St. Mary's or some of these Alberta, Saskatchewan, and they don't have a kid that didn't play. He wasn't a prominent major junior player, right?
Yeah,
they get
exactly.
The cream of the crop. But I get asked a lot, obviously being in development, what route would you go? And I've kind of stuck to the same answer over the years. And I've always said, if your kid is going to be a difference maker in major junior, so if your kid is going to go in and he's going to be a top 6 as a rookie or a top 4 D-man, or maybe has a chance at a starting role, goaltender role.
Yeah.
Then go that route, because you're going to get the education on the back end. And if he has NHL aspirations, that's the best development league in the world.
Yes.
Right. If your kid's going to be a marginal player in and out of the lineup, give him a chance to develop a little bit more at the tier 2 level. Major junior is going to be there. They're 16 when they're making these decisions.
Yeah.
And major junior is going to be there when you're 17, 18, 19, and 20. Right. So if you're unsure and you don't think he's going to be a difference maker, even though the team is pressuring you, because all they want you to do, the major junior teams, as soon as you sign, they'll get you in a game, and now they own you. That you have no option
to
go
anywhere.
States. Yeah. So now they, so that's their sort of MO is to get the parents and the families to believe in it. But you have to look at it and take off your rose-colored glasses and be a realist and say, okay, where does my kid fit in here? Right.
Yeah.
Does he have a chance? Right. Is it a good team? Is it a veteran team? Is he going to be insulated? Is he a skilled player? Is he going to be insulated? Right. Is he going to go in there and get the shit knocked out of him every night because they don't have anybody that's going to protect him?
Yeah. And CHL is a tough, they're tough leagues. They're not it's not junior hockey in the sense of weak. There's big guys that you're going to get
big boy hockey for sure.
It's big boy hockey. Yeah. And my biggest issue with the NCAA right now, I think it's a great route to go if you can get into the NCAA. I'm really worried about tier 2 junior. I don't think it is what it used to be. I can tell you it's not. Even from 5 years ago when you weren't paying a dime, the kids that were there wanted to be there, and they were good players that were just trying to go to the NCAA. But now it's guys that just want to play junior A hockey. They're guys with families with some money, and they want to toss some dough around, play junior A hockey for the status of it. And I mean, there's some guys that can't crack an SPHL roster after that, rather than
the problem is, and I talk to people, daily, about the junior, from coaches to GMs to owners, and it's the expenses, right? I mean, they're charging now because they almost have to. If you take the Maritime Junior League, which is here, you got, I think 7 or 8 teams, or 6. Yes. I think there's 6 in each conference. So there's 12 teams in the Maritime League, 1 in PEI, 5 in New Brunswick, and 6 in Nova Scotia right now. They're all in smaller towns. Like there's not a team in Halifax. There's not a team in Moncton. There's not a team in St. John. They're in Bridgewater, and they're in Yarmouth, and they're in the Valley, Truro. So they're in these smaller towns, right? So 1,200, 1,400 gate is a lot. That's what they're going to get, 12 to 1,400, and that's a tremendous gate for any of these teams. Some of them 400 or 500. Right?
And I'm more looking at it from I'm from Cobourg, so
right.
I'm looking at the Cobourg Cougars, who draw. They have that brand new rink. I forget what the capacity of it is at Cobourg Community Center, but it's a pretty big rink. It could realistically hold more than most major junior players or more major junior teams are pulling. And I mean, they fill it.
Yeah. And so they're an anomaly, in my opinion. And because you can't say, okay, we're going to charge, but Cobourg doesn't have to. It's got to be a league wide or a nationwide thing at that level. And in talking to owners, you know what the biggest expense now is? Sticks.
Yeah, that's not surprising.
Sticks. What's your biggest expense running the junior hockey sticks?
Junior C, junior B, they don't really supply sticks anymore.
No, for sure. And that's why they don't have to charge their players.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, I mean, these sticks break not like, back when I played, we'd maybe 5 or 6 sticks a year in junior. That's it. Some of these kids are doing 2 a game, right?
Yeah.
If you got a big heavy defenseman that takes a lot of one-timers, I mean, he could use 4 dozen sticks at $250 a pop.
Oh, right? Easily. And I mean, there's some guys that are just doing it because they can.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen some guys that just like, as soon as they don't like the stick anymore, as soon as it doesn't have that pop, which is, in my opinion, bullshit, by the way.
Yeah. Sure.
They just stop using it. So it's a little bit more expensive than what it could be.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I don't know why they don't have training staff just go like, look at the stick and say, you don't need a new stick. We're not ordering you a new $300 stick just because you don't like the feel of it anymore, because that's all in your head. That's bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And it's interesting. So the other story, and I'll touch on this, and this could be literally a whole show. Basically, the Q, I just read a report, I texted it to you, that the QMJHL is now being, investigated from some hazing incidents in the 90s where guys put bars of soap in socks and beat the rookies with it.
Yeah.
Okay. You know what? I'm gonna say this, and I've said it for years since all this stuff coming out, Dan Carcillo and some of this. It was horrendous. I could tell you stories from when I was playing junior hockey in the mid 80s that would make you throw up. That I know, that I witnessed, that I saw.
I can tell you some from a year and a half ago.
100%. Okay. I don't think it's nearly as bad as it was. I think over the last couple of years, you got to throw video cameras and phone or videos in your phone and things like that make, kind of keep guys a little bit honest. Is it still happening? Absolutely. But in my opinion, okay, if I at this point was to, coach a junior team, there'd be a no tolerance policy, because that's coming back on you as, an executive or a grown up that's in charge of these kids.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what? I can't always say that. I coached junior at times where I knew some stuff that probably shouldn't have been happening was happening, but it was the way, it was the culture. I'm glad it's gone. I've said it a number of times. My son Jack's 9 years old. If the game was the way it was when I was growing up, he'd be playing something else, right? So I'm comfortable that moving forward, this stuff's going to go away. But my problem with it is, don't beat a dead horse. You got these guys that were part of it, okay? If it was that bad, and it was, and you had that much of a problem with it, speak up then. And I know it was hard, then walk away. If it scarred you as bad as some of these guys that are coming out 20 years later and dragging teams and executives and things like that through the mud, not saying that they don't deserve it, but it's a little bit self-promoting, or,
we're kind of past it.
Yeah, I don't like that lawsuit that the class action that they tried to go against the CHL, that, there's trauma and this and that. Maybe there is. And, I feel awful for the guys that maybe had to deal with maybe more than I did or more than I saw, and it's affected them and affected their mental health. I feel for them. I really do.
There is that kind of clickiness to it where it feels like, oh, this is how it is.
Yeah.
This is junior hockey. This is what it is, really. Like, okay, I guess I suck it up and, just take it. And I do understand why you wouldn't come out and have a problem with it at that time, because it was so normalized. Like, even to this day,
crazy.
I played dog shit junior hockey when I was 15 years old, and like some of the shit like that guys wanted to do, it was like in the middle of nowhere, Norwood, Ontario, and I mean, like broken like a goalie paddle, beat the shit out of you with it.
Yeah. Like I said, I could make our listeners throw up. some of the stuff. But just a quick story before we go on? We're going to make a couple of announcements. But do you remember? Well, of course, Akeem Alou came out a couple of years ago, and he had some issues with a couple of coaches that played in the National Hockey League, and some racism allegations. And he's a prominent guy on the diversity team for the NHL. So Akeem was a big prospect. Came up in the I think early 2000s, maybe late 90s, early 2000s. He was a high draft pick, first round draft pick to Windsor. So he ends up in Windsor. He's a rookie, and Steve Downey is the captain there. Remember Steve Downey?
Yeah.
So Downey, he played in the NHL for quite a while.
Yeah.
So Downey's the captain there. And, if anybody wants to, I'm not going to go into detail, but there was something that they used to do to rookies on buses that goes back to the 70s called hot box. They'd throw a bunch of rookies naked in the bathroom at the back of the bus and, make them stay in there for X amount of time, whatever. Disgusting. Absolutely.
That's still going on today, by the way.
Not okay. Anyway, so Akeem Alou, who was a big, big man, he's 16 years old. He basically said to, the veterans that were saying, hey, take your clothes off and get in that bathroom. He's like, I'm not doing that. And then Downey says, okay, that's fine. You're fighting me at practice tomorrow. He goes, okay. So doesn't go in. Rest of the rookies do. He goes out, and Downey was a tough player, a little bit dirty, played on the edge. He played for Canada in the juniors, and he was a good player, but he wasn't big like Alou. Alou was a big, big, strong kid.
Yeah.
So Alou comes out for practice. Downey's already on the ice. Alou comes out, doesn't even have his gloves or his helmet on. Goes out. He said, the captain said I got to fight him if I don't go in. So he went out to fight him, had his gloves off, kind of didn't jump him or anything like that, kind of squared up with him. Downey cross-checked all his teeth out, right? So then that was scandal. You want to talk about scandal? Downey got traded to Peterborough. The coach got fired because he was obviously, allowing some of this. They traded. It was bad. That was the kind of the low point for the Windsor Spitfires, and ever since then they kind of turned it around. They had the Taylor Hall years and won some Memorial Cups, and they're a real strong franchise. I think Bobby Bugner and who was the other guy that went in there, the GM, he played in the NHL for Colorado. I forget his name right now. They went in and changed the culture. But yeah, there's I just it's tough. I just don't like to relive it. I don't like to have to read a story. We don't hear enough about the good things in our sport, right?
Well, no, there's some hazing out there that's like it's harmless fun. Like, I mean, rookie karaoke is one of the funniest things in the world. I think that should never go away. I mean, I remember singing "Wrecking Ball" by Miley Cyrus and dancing on the bus.
I'd pay to see that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun time, but I mean, some guys aren't into it. Some guys are like, I'm an outgoing guy, so the veterans want me to sing something, I'm gonna get into it and I'm gonna go full out, and they're gonna love it. And that's why, I mean, I was part of the leadership group later in my junior career was because I was willing to do stuff like that. And
totally get it.
But the good hazing, it's not even hazing, it's just fun. And that's something that needs to never go away, because there's so much of this negative kind of. I
would rather it be not called hazing. I'd rather it be called team building, team bonding.
Well, exactly,
but the group together.
Now they're like grouping everything together, and they don't want any of that because it's such.
Yeah, no, I think you need that. I mean, you do it in business, right? You have team bonding and team building exercises and things like that, right?
And it's not teenage boys. I mean, you get a bunch of teenage boys together, their team building is going to be different than a bunch of office.
100%. But I think the coaches and the management of the team have to set guidelines, right? The problem is when these stories hit the media, they jump on it like vultures, right?
Yeah.
But they're not talking about the player that, totally unannounced, left practice yesterday in Toronto and went over to the sick kids hospital and spent 4 hours with some cancer patients in the children's hospital, and didn't want any reporters or cameras or anything like that. And he went in there and signed some autographs and hung out with the kids. We don't see that.
No.
Right? That's not in the press. Right?
But it's happening.
It's cute.
It happens all the time.
You know, it's a nice little feel-good story, but they want to sell papers or get clicks on their internet hits, right? But anyway, we could talk. That could be a whole show, but yeah, that's just my view on it, and you've said yours. So, a couple of exciting things coming up. So, we're not sure a date yet because this young man's playing in the Ontario Hockey League playoffs, but we are going to have a real upcoming superstar here coming on center ice here over the next little while. Jack Mateer. So Jack, I know Jack's family. You know, he got his excuse me, his dad Mark and Uncle Mike and brother Tanner. They were all here for the World Juniors. And Jack was a teammate of Connor Bedard's, won a gold medal here in Halifax. My son Jack Mateer was his favorite player, which is saying a lot when Connor Bedard's on the team. But I think it partially to do with, you know, his name being Jack and my kid being named Jack, but real beauty. So World Junior champion. He's a stud D on the Ottawa 67s. I think they're going to go deep. They're favored to win the O and go to the Memorial Cup. And he's, you know, a heavy, probably 30 minutes a game, chips in offensively, 6'4", 6'5", big frame, you know, just a great player, plays the right way. Nashville Predators pick. I think he's going to be in their lineup sooner than later, probably, you know, as they should let him go to Milwaukee in the minors next year for a year or two and develop and learn how to play the game as a pro. I think that's the way to develop a defenseman. But yeah, he's a beauty. His family are beauties, especially his grandpa Jimmer. I played in the grandpa's golf tournament many years ago down in the St. Catherine Thorold area of Ontario, and there's some stories coming from that. So real excited to have Jack on our show. Just a real good kid, and I think Brent, you're going to really like him, and he's going to add a lot, and we can pick his brain about what it was like to play with Bedard and all kinds of, you know, some OHL stuff, and I'm real excited to have him on for sure. So that's one, and then I've got another announcement next week on this show. We've got Rob Shrimp. Now, for those of you who don't know Rob Shrimp, Rob was Rob's an 86 birth year. So I coached 86 birth year in Toronto back in the 90s. And so I coached against Rob. Rob was from upstate New York. He played minor. He was a superstar when he was a little guy. He was drafted first overall to the Ontario Hockey League. Don Cherry actually drafted him when he owned the Mississauga Ice Dogs. And he ended up in London with the Knights, traded over there, and won that Memorial Cup with them 2004, 2005, and around there. And he was a first-round draft pick to the Edmonton Oilers. But what I can tell you about Rob Shrimp, best hands I've ever seen, okay, live. So, and I'm throwing Datsuk in that mix. I'm throwing Pat Kane in that mix. Rob Shrimp, period, has the best hands I've ever seen. Google him, look at some video. There's videos of him in the American Hockey League, the National Hockey League, lots in Europe. He played in a couple of different countries in Europe. He's now in skill development, and he still lives in Europe. We're fortunate enough, he's coming to the States for 10 days here coming up, and we were able to snag him. So I'm real excited to have him on and listen to some stories of his journey. Real nice young man, and can't wait to have him. So yes, tune in next Monday night. It's going to be a great one. Any final thoughts from you, Clem?
No, that pretty well sums it up for the next little bit anyways. Obviously, with playoffs coming up, we're not going to have too many guests after next week until in the middle of summer when everything quiets down a little bit. But do want to give a quick shout out to Old City Sports Network. Make sure you go check out all the great content over there, oldcitysportsnetwork.com. They're great with us. And if you enjoy this content, maybe we can find you a personal show that you like that's a little bit more directed towards you. There's lots of there's team shows, 6-man for the Maple Leafs, which is me and Jonny Mac as well as John, our third guy, John, too.
The other John.
But beyond that, there's lots of other shows that you guys will probably like, as well as some articles. I know Jonny Mac's put a couple up there already. So make sure you go check that out, as well as all of the sponsors, which are in the description. Lots of great stuff out there, and using our promo codes, you can save yourself some dough on some great products.
Yeah, for sure. And Old City Sports, great to us. They they promote some real cool products. A couple shows that I've listened to and I really like, the Philadelphia Flyers show that Jesse has. I don't think there's many episodes left of the season, just based on
just one
on
next
how
week.
Philly's doing, right? So just I think next week,
and that wraps it up for them, and then they're off for the summer. And obviously, if you guys are missing Jesse Bell on here, he's just dealing with some personal matters right now. But we wish him the best and hope that he's doing well and back as soon as he can.
Absolutely. And the other one I was going to mention, they have an American Hockey League show, and really cool, because I know a lot of people, follow an American Hockey League team, and I certainly did. I grew up with it. We had a couple teams here in Halifax when I was a kid, and I was able to watch players before they made it, right? We had the Nova Scotia Voyageurs, which was Montreal, and then Halifax Citadels, which was Quebec, and Nova Scotia Oilers, which was Edmonton. So lots of cool content there. So anyway, that's it for us. Have a real good week, and we'll see you next week with Robbie Shrimp.
Cheers, guys.